Hey everyone. So if you read the title or the if you read the title of this video, then you already know what it's about. It's my testimony. And if you read the title, you also know what part of my testimony is going to include, but that's not the main thing. Personally is the part of the testimony I enjoy the most, but it's not the main thing. So was my testimony, how I became a Christian, what led up to it, and all the little details surrounding that. So there are a lot of things that I can tell, but I don't want to make this video too long, so bear with me. I'm going to leave out some details, but I'll try to include the things that I feel are important to capture the true essence of my conversion or my story as to what led me to accept faith in Christ and all of that. So I grew up in a Muslim commune. I was born into it actually, and there was a lot of instilling of a fear of God there, a belief in God. And while I left, while I was too young to really appreciate everything that they may have been putting forward, there was enough takeaway on my part to believe that there's a God, right? So may not have been able to identify him, tell you much about him, but I had enough to believe that there was a God. And whether that was because of the upbringing or it was just this innate sense, I can't tell you. I just know that I've always believed that there was a God. So we left there. Parents left. I left along with them. I didn't really have a choice. And I tried to serve God in my own way. While my mother was grew up mostly in a single parent household, my father was there, but he wasn't in the household the whole time. My mother would have taken us to different churches, but it was never really a requirement that we have to commit to any particular belief. She kind of left us to be able to make that decision on our own, and I could speak for myself. I know I was very hungry to know more about God, and may not have expressed that openly all the time, but inside it was always this desire to know who is God, what is he about. But the little understanding that I had me to conclude that whoever God is, you need to live your life in a way that would honor him. And I felt, and that might have been a byproduct of my first religious experience, I felt that the best way to honor God, the best way to please God, would have been to live life trying to do what is right and not doing the things that are wrong. And I felt like that's the best way you could have pleased God. So I like, hey, I'm not gonna smoke, I'm not gonna indulge in too much drinking, at least not to the extent to get drunk. I'm gonna try not to have sex out of marriage and all the other things that, you know, we kind of put down from a religious point of view that are good things to engage or not engage in for the perspective of pleasing God. And here I am going about my life trying to do that, but all the while I would have questions that I would be putting out to God. Why is this so? Why is that so? Tell me about this. I want to understand this. And I always asking God these questions, but never really getting answers. But I would still ask because I was always curious about different things. And can't really share questions. I can't remember half of them, but there were a lot of questions that I had. Anyway, so I got exposed to different types of beliefs. Got exposed to I didn't want to get into the religious institutions calling, but I got exposed to different type of beliefs. And at some point during my walk, and at some point during my life rather, my mother and my sister became a Christian. My older sister became a Christian first, and then through her my mother converted and my mother became a Christian. And when they became Christians, for me, I just believed that God was real. I believed that God was existed. But to say that I could have put a name tag or religious tag on who God is, that wasn't the case. I just believed that He's real. So whether you put him under the tag of one religion or another wasn't really that important to me. I just believe in God. So anyway, of course my mother and them would have been praying for me, and they would try to convert me and thing, and believe in God, so I didn't really have a problem going to the church that they would go to. I wouldn't go all the time, but in my mind this was a good thing to do, so I would go as much as, you know, my feelings would have allowed me to. But I felt that they were taking this thing too seriously, you know, like, hey, you're not that serious for me. Like, why always everything is pray, and all you want to be in church 3, 4, 5 hours a day? Like, come on, you know, we had to live our lives, you know, and that was the type of mindset that I had, at least outwardly. But inwardly, in my heart, I always felt like, even though I think they're taking it too serious, I think what they're doing is really what we should be doing, because we should take God seriously. But I wouldn't express that outwardly, ever. So anyway, let me try to fast forward. So something happened. As I say, I'm living my life. I go to church sometimes, but I'm not really an avid, regular church goer. Believe in God, but I'm not no big prayer. I pray from time to time. I believe in talking to God. I just do it in this type of religious setting. And one day, my mom invited a friend of hers over to pray. And when she invited this friend over to pray, I realized where this going, because I know when they start to pray, they're going down a whole different road, and we will be there 2-3 hours later and they will still be praying. And I'm like, no, not today. Not today. God. So I was getting ready to put on my clothes to bust out, because like, nope, believe in prayer, but you're not gonna catch me here today. No 2-hour, 3-hour prayer session. And as I about to get ready to bust out, I was probably about 16, 17, 18, I can't remember the exact age, but somewhere in that range. And my mother grabbed me by the scruff of my collar and pulled me back and said, sit down, you stay right there, you're not moving until we finish praying for you. And I sat down there and I thought to myself, Perry, why are you making a big deal about this? It's not like if you have a problem with prayer. It feel like they just take too long, but... And then my mother told me when they finish praying for me, I could go ahead and leave. So I said, alright, no problem. So I sit down. They pray, they do all the things that they normally do and thing. And I just did like, you know, like, let me get to the part when you pray for me so I could kind of head out. And while I was there, my mother's friend started to pray for me. And when she started to pray for me, at the end of the prayer, or coming down to the end of the prayer, she started to tell me things that she is saying God is telling her to say this to me. So she's talking as though this is God talking to you. And if you're in the Christian circle, you would be familiar with what I'm talking about. And I think that would have been the first time I really encountered that. And it blew my mind. Not that she talking as though she talking on God's behalf, but that the things that she was saying were true. And there's no way that she could know the things that she's saying, because not only is she telling me about me, but the things that she's telling me about me is things that I wasn't sharing with nobody. Thoughts and questions that I was putting to God, but I wasn't expressing them out loud at all. Wasn't even talking these things with my mother. And here's this woman telling me, say, yes, be asking this, yes, be asking that. God say you ask him this, he say you ask him that. And she lay out question after question after question that I asked God. And some of them she answered, but a couple of them she was like, say, God say you're not ready for that as yet. And after that experience, I was blown. I was like, my Lord, you know, like, no, like, nah, God is real, because this woman could not see the things that she said to me except God revealed them to her. Because listen, I may probably not expressing it properly, but the idea is, I'm telling you, the things that she spoke, she could not have known them. They were private things. And she told me, she's saying this basically because God leading her to say this. This is what God telling her to say to me. But there was one thing that she said when she was closing off. She was like, oh, God said to tell you this, one more thing. He said, you know that thought? And mind you, this is true. Everything she said was true. She said, you know that thought you just have in the back of your mind, that when you get old, you'll serve God? He said, you best put that thought away, because you don't know. Basically, you don't know that tomorrow is promised to you. And I was like, my Lord, that's exactly what I used to be thinking. I'd be like, hey, serving God and taking God that seriously, so when you get old and you're young and still live your life. But even though I was saying I'm young and I'm trying to live my life, I was still trying to live my life within a certain boundary, and that boundary is do the things that would please God, avoid the things that would not please Him. But just don't take God that seriously. You'll take Him more serious when you get old. And some of you all know what I'm talking about. So anyway, so that started me on the path, and I was like, okay, yeah, it's time to take God a little bit more seriously. I need to start serving God. And because this woman is coming from a Christian background and was able to say some of the things that she said, of course, I started to pursue God from the Christian perspective. So anyway, I started to try and pray more often. I tried to read the Bible more often. And my whole thing was I want to get to know this God better. So I started to go to church more often and everything. And then boom, one night I had a dream. And this is the title. Wow, 11 minutes in and I'm now telling this. I'm so sorry. I be annoyed when people do this. They put something in the title and you wait till nearly the end of the video to hear it. But anyway, it wasn't done on purpose. So I had this dream. And in this dream, I was in a church. And everybody in the church is wearing white. And listen, the white is not like this. This is a kind of grayish white. Hey, looking glowing, but hey, look good. But it's not like this. The white was brilliant white. Like no fuller on earth could full it kind of white. Like you can't get white to look like that white. And there was radiating light out of that white. And I was wearing it. Everybody else who was in the church was wearing it. But there weren't too many people there. There were probably about 9-10 people in the church. And everybody was facing forward. There were candles all over the church, so it was candlelit, but yet we were glowing. And when everybody went to the aisle and was getting ready to genuflect, kneel down, however you want to describe it, was getting ready to kneel down to pray. And just as we were about to get ready to kneel down to pray, I realized that everybody in the church was turning around to look at something. So I turned around to see where everybody looking at me as a Trini. And when I turned around, I saw this man walking down the center aisle of the church. And this man looking directly at me. He ain't looking at nobody else. He looking directly at me. And I watching him and he watching me and he walking towards me. And while he walking towards me, I looking at him directly in his face. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I know this man from somewhere, boy. I can't put a finger from where, but I know this man. And I beating my brain out trying to figure out where I know this man from. I know him. His face seems so familiar, but I can't put a finger on it. And all the while I'm thinking about that and trying to jog my brain to say where I know this man from. Eventually he reached up to me. I looking at him directly in his face. He looking at me directly in my face. And then he do so and he take his hand and he put it on my shoulder. And the moment he touched me, I knew who he was. That touch was like revelation. It was Jesus. And that he stand up a little bit taller than me, so I had to look up a little bit. And he stand up and he watched me straight in my eyes. And he just said 2 words, just 2 words. He said, keep praying. And after he said that, he turned and he walked to the side of the church. And as he walked to the side of the church, this light shined straight through the roof of the church and landed exactly where he was. Boom. And he said, I heard a voice say, this is my beloved son, hear ye him. And I wake up. And listen, nothing, that, I was already heading in the direction of getting to know God more. But that spark of fire, and I just dive straight in. Like I just want to know who he is. I want to know him more. And the fact that he told me keep praying, I mean, I probably didn't listen to that message as well as I should over the years, but it's something that I've never forgotten. That whole encounter, it was just so amazing. And I was blown away. When I woke up, I was like in shock, like, whoa, I saw Jesus. I saw his face. Like I looked at him, he looked at me. he touched me and he told me keep praying. Like, that was so awesome to me. Like, whoa, like that really just happened. Whew, again, goosebumps thinking about it. So anyway, so yeah, so that kind of sealed the deal, if you want to put it that way, of me going down the path of being a Christian. And since then to now, I've only grown in faith, because that was just one. There are many more instances where I've had encounters, may not be exactly like that, but similar to that, that convinces me beyond a shadow of a doubt that Jesus Christ is Lord and God, like Thomas said. And I'm going to close with this, because this is already going on a little bit long and I didn't want to make this too long. For those of you who may be listening to this and thinking, if Jesus is really God, as you believe that he is, how is it that you saw his face? There's going to be a link below that's going to carry you to a video that addresses the whole concept of seeing the face of God. So if you really want the answer to that question, the link is below. Click it and listen to the video, and you'll get some insight there. Right? But I'm going to stop here for today. I hope something in there would have blessed you in some way. And until next time, cheers.